Welcome to Judicial Dollars and Cents, brought to you by Anders Virtual CFO Services team from all across the United States. I'm John Scott, and in each episode, we'll shine a light on the financial side of the legal world, turning law firm numbers into impact-driven stories. From taxes and profitability to practice growth and leadership, we sit down with law firm innovators who are shaping the future of the profession. Let's dive in, right here on Judicial Dollars and Cents. Hey, and welcome back to Judicial Dollars and Cents, where the business of law meets the practice of law. I'm John Scott with Anders Virtual CFO Services for law firms, and each week we sit down with successful attorneys, legal innovators, and business leaders to explore what it really takes to build a thriving law firm. We go beyond the courtroom to discuss leadership, profitability, operations, technology, AI, and the strategies that helps firms grow, scale, and create lasting value. Whether you're a managing partner, an emerging firm leader, or someone passionate about the future of the legal profession, our goal is to provide practical insights that you can put to work immediately. Today, we are pleased to welcome Anthony Gorospe, founder of the Gorospe Law Firm in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Anthony has practiced for more than 20 years, and his career gives him an interesting perspective on litigation. He began as an assistant district attorney in Tulsa County before moving to a large defense firm where he represented the bad guys, the insurance company. He eventually decided to switch sides and dedicate his practice to representing people injured in serious accidents. Today, his law firm handles personal injury matters ranging from automobile and trucking accidents, motorcycle crashes, wrongful death, medical negligence, and insurance disputes. Anthony has been selected to Oklahoma Super Lawyers for more than a decade and has been named Oklahoma Magazine's Best of the Best attorney for 8 consecutive years. But what I'd really like to explore today is Anthony's description of his practice as David versus Goliath and what he has learned along the way about insurance companies, building cases, serving clients, and building law firms that last over the last 2 decades. Anthony, welcome to Judicial Dollars and Cents.
Thanks for having me, John Scott. I appreciate it.
Hey, I like to start with people's origin story, and you're a Tulsa guy. You went to the University of Oklahoma, earned your law degree at the University of Tulsa, and began as a prosecutor. But what made you want to become an attorney?
Sure. So I'm the son of immigrants. My dad immigrated here from the Philippines. My mom from Greece. Most American story ever. They met, had 3 kids, moved to Tulsa. The reason I wanted to be an attorney, growing up here in Tulsa, my dad was a doctor. I knew I didn't want to do that, so I could check that off. I graduated from OU, and at the time I graduated, there was more jobs in technology than there were college students to fill it. So I took one. I absolutely hated it. I didn't want to work for the big corporate, bureaucracy. So I said, you know what, I want to do something where ultimately I can, work for people. And so quit that job, and I was out on the road. I think I was in St. Louis, came back home, moved in with my parents and applied to TU and got in. And it was the best decision ever. I wanted to ultimately end up doing what I've been doing for the past 20 years, but it took a little time to get there, working for a big firm and working as a prosecutor, which were both invaluable experiences.
We're going to come back to OU, but who was the football coach when you were there?
So I was there during the dark days, John Scott. When I was a freshman, it was Howard Schnellenberger for his 1 year. And then it was John Blake. And then when I graduated, they hired some guy I'd never heard of before named Bob Stoops. And 2 years later, we won a national championship before we would win 1 or 2 games a year. It was, pretty bad timing.
Stoops had a phenomenal run. So you had some interesting transitions. You came out working as a DA, and then you flipped over to the insurance company side. What did you learn from that helps you today in your injury practice?
So working as a prosecutor, or I guess I could probably say the same if you're a public defender. If you have one of those roles early on in your career, you are in court every single day. and you're trying cases, you're evaluating cases, which granted, you're evaluating cases for a different reason to recommend, punishment, probation, jail time, prison time, whatever. But you're in court all the time. That is invaluable because there's a lot of attorneys that have been practicing for a decade, maybe longer, and maybe haven't really tried a lot of cases and are not super familiar with being in the courtroom. So what I can take from the DA's office is just that exposure. It's incredible, and moving on to working for an insurance defense firm where we represented, State Farm, Allstate. This was before most of them went in-house. All these, just learning ultimately what ends up being the opposite side of how they litigate the cases, evaluate the cases, get to know the people. A lot of the people that I worked with are still in, maybe not that firm, but they're still doing insurance defense. So relationships are huge too. You meet these folks, you've worked with them, they know you, you know them. But when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of what helps me in my practice and representing injured people, it's just the exposure of how the insurance companies operate and work when they're dealing with a claim.
And that's a huge advantage that you have working on both sides of that. You understand how they evaluate that case. So what are some of the biggest mistakes people make right after an accident that could ultimately damage their claim?
I think one of the biggest mistakes folks have, and this is mostly the men, the guy clients, is not accepting or realizing how hurt you are or that you're even hurt. I mean, I understand the moments after a wreck, we're talking about a car crash here, the adrenaline's pumping, you're probably not feeling it right then and there, absent some seriously traumatic injuries. But as the day goes by, as the next day comes and goes, a lot of these injuries become noticeable. And so when you're not going to go get checked out, not going to get medical treatment for an extended period of time after an injury-causing event, that's something that that can be used as, strong evidence or some sort of evidence against you that you weren't really that hurt. There's a lot of guys feel, it'll go away with time, without having the proper evaluation from medical professionals. So that's a big thing. And and even more so on that, I think another major thing that people do is they accept some settlement from the insurance carrier maybe 3 or 4 days after the wreck. The insurance of the at-fault party will say something like, we'll pay $10,000 to your reasonable medical bills and give you $3,000 for your pain and suffering. And that might sound good to that person, and they sign and they get a check. Well, what they don't really realize is that insurance company is going to determine what's reasonable of that $10,000 bucket. And that may not be anywhere near the amount of damages that this event caused you. So I think those are two that people make mistakes about that I see kind of pretty often.
So two thoughts. One being they don't seek medical treatment immediately. I guess that gives the other side that the longer they delay, the defense side can say, well, that injury was the result of something else. And then two, I want to be clear, if they act as their own counsel and accept the settlement, they're waiving any additional rights to go back after the at-fault party. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So what the insurance company will do will dangle a carrot in front of their face. In that scenario, $10,000 in medical bills, $3,000 for your pain and suffering, and they'll make the person making the claim sign a release stating that they're accepting this as full and final settlement for any known, unknown, conditions as a result from the loss. And obviously, this is happening maybe days after the wreck when when they haven't sought proper counsel or retained an attorney, and they think they're doing themselves a favor by getting a few $1,000s in their pocket. So add that with the first thing I said of not seeking medical treatment. Well, you go get your money, then you go see a doc, and it's like, hey, you're going to need this therapy or this treatment or these shots or maybe even this surgery. And that's going to blow way past that money that the insurance company, that you accepted from the insurance company. And no, you can't come back. I mean, absent some very specific circumstances, you're not going to set that release that you signed aside and continue to attempt to collect from the at-fault party's insurance carrier.
It's an expensive lesson that some folks will have to learn by making a mistake. Hey, the David versus Goliath reference, I love the biblical reference, and you've described what you do as David versus Goliath. When you represent an individual or family against an insurance company with enormous financial resources, sophisticated claim systems, lawyers on staff, and years of data, how do you level the playing field?
Yeah, so the one good thing, it is David versus Goliath. I mean, they're monsters. They're some of the biggest corporations in the world. We talked a bit about college football. You can't watch a game without seeing 4 or 5 commercials from all the big ones out there ever. They have the resources. They have unlimited funds. As the claimant, when you're not going to have those resources, you're not going to have an army of 20 lawyers. You have to be pretty strategic in what you are claiming, how you can prove it. The courtroom's going to be the big equalizer. And so preparing that case to where your position that you would take in front of a judge or a jury is about as solid as they can get. Sure, they're going to be able to poke holes in things. There's no perfect case. We have the opportunity to prepare that case ahead of time prior to litigation. If the client, retains us early and follows through with the advice of their providers and counsel, that we can really, position them for success against that monster Goliath out there.
And one thing that I heard you just say that I think is important to point out is you have to be prepared to go to litigation. You can't just want to settle cases. I mean, otherwise you're not going to extract the actual value from the case. So let's move from practicing law to running a law firm. What have you learned along the way? I mean, all lawyers are decent at their craft. Some are great at their craft, but they're not necessarily business people. So what did you have to learn about business to grow and run your law firm?
I learned from a lot of mistakes. I know that. Learning from when a vendor promises you what sounds too good to be true, it is too good to be true. Bottom line is this: what I've learned, the best thing for my business, for my law firm, is the people. This team that works here. It's the best money, it's the best capital you're going to ever spend to have the right team and the right people. With that team, you can do anything. You can adapt. You can implement new technologies. Mistakes I've made, the list is so long. I mean, the marketing promises, the SEO promises, the case management software. I mean, they'll sell it to where you basically don't have to do anything and your law firm runs your site. It's not true. But ultimately, I think what it's come down to after doing this for a while is surrounding yourself with the right folks that believe in the same principles and core values that you set for your firm. And if you have that, any sort of issues that come up can be dealt with, even issues that the boss makes, problems the boss makes by hiring or implementing something that just does not perform like it was promised to.
So getting the right people on the bus in the right seats and having the great culture is going to allow you to overcome whatever comes your way. I love that. Um, let's talk about AI and how it, in my view, AI helps small and mid-sized firms compete with larger firms, larger organizations, but it's got to be used in the right use case. It's got to be used ethically with human oversight. So give me some use cases that you all are using AI for.
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to the evening the playing field with David versus Goliath. We have document intensive cases. For example, we have a HIPAA compliant, a private and confidential AI platform for medical record review and analysis. And that alone, with our evaluation of our clients' injuries in course of medical treatment, saves so much time in the old way of flipping through pages to get through thousands of pages to find the 20 pages that kind of really say what you need to extract out of there. That's one big one. And again, that's just in the medical side. When it comes to just regular, just day-to-day stuff, correspondence, anything like that. I mean, I am part of my team that use AI platforms. We have subscriptions to several of them. As long as you're doing it in a safe and responsible way, not putting protected client information on any of these AI platforms that we may not have the subscription that keeps it private, but use it to organize large amounts of data into something palatable. There's so many uses on the management side. Here we do quarterly reviews, and those quarterly reviews are based upon discretionary bonuses. I've got a GPT on my chat platform that throughout a quarter, I'll do wins, losses for each one of my team members so that I remember at the end of the quarter when it's time to put together their review, which I will get assistance from AI to draft the review, and any discretionary bonuses that they've earned throughout that quarter. I'm not trying to remember what happened 6 weeks ago. It's right there. I mean, so there's so many different applications for that. And in a large firm, that's some HR person. That's a person that has a salary probably, and there's probably a form that's filled out by a manager that says, such and such missed a deadline, whatever. It takes 30 seconds for me to do that if something comes up, good or bad. And that's really helpful on the management side, for sure.
I think those are great use cases. So your firm, being a PI firm, operates on a contingent fee basis. And I want to ask about how you forecast cash flow, because it's, when you're first starting out as a PI firm, it's a while before you see the first dollar. And you've got a couple other things that are impediments in that. Prepaid case costs are your investment in the case. So case selection is important. You don't want to throw money at cases that you can't win. And that money sits on your balance sheet until you win the case and get your fees back, your expenses back. So do you try and forecast cash flow, and what methodology do you use? Is it something your case management system can help with?
Yes, my case management system, I have a lot of dashboards for financial forecasting, and it's really based upon averages, and it's based upon current case load and what status that case is in. And so, in an ideal world, you've got them coming in and going out at the same time. So cases that are settling or resolving are getting picked up on the back end at the beginning of the funnel by new cases that are coming in. So whether it's a year, 2 years, however long the case takes, we're continuously going. That doesn't always happen. All right. So I can look on this dashboard and see, all right, these cases are ones that we can reasonably expect to earn a fee on in the next 30, 60, 90 days. These are ones longer than that. And although putting together a budget at the beginning of the year, it always seems like such a great idea. It's not always followed, but you have some sort of guardrails to say, okay, well, if we're saying that this budget is what we need for quarter three, and quarter three looks like it's not going to really be that good, but quarter four is looking, Q4 is looking nice with the financial dashboards that I'm seeing. Maybe we hold off on something that's not super essential for Q3 and head that up in the next quarter, or vice versa, whatever. It's like, hey, a lot of this stuff that I thought was going to be hitting in this quarter is actually coming sooner. You can make decisions financially for those scenarios too.
You just called it a budget, and I like to describe it as a dynamic forecast. And it sounds like you're doing the things. A dynamic forecast is essentially the budget, but it's based on when those cash flows are coming in and when the investments and the expenses are going out. And then you're looking at it not just when you set it up in the fall of the year before or at year end, but you're looking at it every month and saying, how are we projecting on this trend line, and what levers do we need to get more cases in? Do we need to find out where the inefficiency in the process is so that we can get to an adjudication? And you're always pulling levers so that you can meet or exceed that trend line. And it sounds like you're on the right path for that. So I applaud you for that. Let's get back to OU. And I think I'm probably a couple years older than you, but back in the day, Missouri and OU were in the Big Eight. It was a wonderful time. But I don't know if you remember the Big Eight, but you had 7 league games, and then you could go off and play some really great non-conference games. Do you remember those days?
I do. I remember those games. I was younger, but I've always been an OU fan. That was back when those, the OU-Nebraska rivalry was every Thanksgiving, which was just everybody looked forward to that. Was it Missouri's big rival? What was it? KU?
Kansas. It was Kansas.
Kansas. And that stinks that those things went away because of all this conference realignment. But OU and Missouri are back in the same conference called the SEC now. Not that we play every year. We played last year and we're playing this year. But I love OU football. It's a lot of fun.
You're going to love the SEC. I think you and I can align on our hatred of Texas because it ruined the Big Eight by coming over and forming the Big 12. They were the big gorilla in the room, and they're not going to be able to do that in the SEC, thank goodness. And I was down at OU last year when you all beat us there. It was a great environment. I didn't understand Boomer Sooner, but okay, I'll go for that. But then you all have to come to us this year, and I think you guys are going to be favored, but we could surprise some people with Austin Simmons, and it should be a good game.
There is no week off in the SEC. I don't care where you are in the standings. It's tough. It's a grind. I mean, no offense to our Kansas friends out there, but whenever we were in the Big 12, Kansas week was kind of like, that's when you have senior day or whatever, you're probably going to get a win and your freshmen are going to get to play that game. Yeah, no, not in the SEC. I don't care where you are or anything. It's going to be tough and it's going to be fun. I mean, every week's a good game.
But we are coming into the best time of the year because college football is back. Pro football's here. We're out of our little dead zone there. Hey, Anthony, this has been great. What's the best way for folks to get a hold of you or your law firm?
GorospeLaw.com, GorospeLaw.com. We are based out of Tulsa. I'm a member of a lot of different organizations that have reached nationwide. Our number is 918-582-7775. So even if you aren't in the Oklahoma area, I would much rather be able to refer you to a capable and excellent counsel if it's not a case that we take, whether for one reason or another, geographic or otherwise. But the website and the phone number, and that's GorospeLaw.com.
Anthony, it sounds like you have a great firm. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you all for listening to Judicial Dollars and Cents, where the business of law meets the practice of law. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, follow, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Our mission is simple: to help law firm owners build stronger businesses and deliver exceptional client experiences and create firms that thrive for generations. I'm John Scott with Anders Virtual CFO Services, and we will see you next time on Judicial Dollars and Cents. Thanks for joining us on Judicial Dollars and Cents, presented by Anders Virtual CFO Services. If you found value in today's conversation, be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcast. To learn more about how Anders helps law firms strengthen their financial foundations and drive growth, visit anderscpa.com. Until next time, keep making smart decisions that make perfect sense.